Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Wancher Dream Watch Fuyuzora Urushi. This watch is available from wancherwatch.com for $700 which is €599 respectively. Wancher are a well-established microbrand. They were founded in 2005 in Japan. This watch is available in the following case finishes: black, bronze, gold, red Aurora and silver respectively. Of the case finishes, I think this silver version is the best looking. It's also available on two strap options, black leather and brown leather respectively. Again, I think this black leather strap is the best looking. This watch features a blue lacquered dial. The blue lacquered Urushi dial is handmade in Wajima, Japan by master Urushi artists at Teiya Shikiten Lacquer House. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the specifications of the piece. So the watch comes in a solid wooden watch box, and as you can see on the lid to the watch box it looks like it's printed with black paint, but it's actually laser etched. So one removes this elasticated strap which has two red tassels, and that secures the lid to the base. So underside of the lid to the watch box is upholstered with contrasting red velvet fabric to a good standard. This does a good job of protecting the watch in shipping, but it's also very aesthetically pleasing. And in the base we also have a panel which is also upholstered with red velvet fabric to a good standard, and two fabric straps which prevent the watch from moving around. And on the base it's laser etched with the Wancher emblem and Wancher text logo to a good standard. So nice to see a solid wooden watch box. This is made from Japanese kiri wood, which is very aesthetically pleasing. And Wancher deserve credit because they could have just used a plastic or cardboard watch box. This is a mid-tier piece, and a solid wooden watch box made from Japanese kiri wood is appropriate. With regards to the items that come with the piece, this is the owner's instruction manual in the form of a card which you fold out. There are two QR codes, so it's bilingual both in English and Japanese. One can scan the QR code to download the owner's instruction manual with clear, concise diagrams, instructions in English or alternatively Japanese, detailing the operation of the movement used, which is the Miyota Caliber 9015 automatic. One also gets this card, which is the guarantee certificate or alternative warranty card. So one folds it out and there are two QR codes. Again, it's bilingual, English and Japanese. One can scan the QR code with your Android or iPhone, and that will download and activate the 12-month international warranty from the date of purchase. It also details the terms and conditions of the 12-month international warranty, which is very good. Now, I would like to see Wancher improve upon this and upgrade this to a 2-year international warranty, because 12-month international warranties are the industry standard for low-tier pieces between €0 and €500 price point respectively, but for a mid-tier piece between €500 and €5,000, and this piece is €599, so therefore it's mid-tier, the industry standard is 2 years versus 12 months, so I'd like to see them upgrade it to a 2-year international warranty, but nonetheless good to see that included. So with regards to the specifications of the piece, we have a 41.8mm case diameter, we have a lug-to-lug measurement of 49.5mm, a thickness of 11.5mm and a lug width of 20mm. The genuine leather strap is bamboo patterned, it's got a matte finish to it versus glossy, and it's padded and it tapers in thickness and also width from 20mm at the lugs down to the buckle and tang. Solid 316L grade stainless steel buckle and tang, flawless mirror polishing to the top side, underside and flanks, no sharp edges, no sharp corners. However, it's sterile, which is a production cost cutting measure. One can be magnanimous about a sterile unsigned buckle and tang if this were a low tier piece between €0 and €500. It is at the lower end of the mid-tier, which is €500 to €5,000 price point, but at €599, the industry standard is one expects to see a signed buckle and tang. So I'd like to see Wancher engrave the Wancher text logo or alternatively Wancher emblem into the buckle, because that would further enhance the piece and make it more aesthetically pleasing. But quality of the mirror polishing is excellent and the gauge is good. It's a good heavy buckle and tang on the padded bamboo pattern strap. We have a single domed sapphire crystal with clear AR coating on the underside, and the clear anti-reflective coating does an outstanding job of reducing the glare and the highly reflective nature of the silver mirror polished Dolphin handset. Quality of the mirror polishing to the dolphin hands is exceptional, and they deserve full credit for that. They're correctly proportioned. The dolphin minute hand extends all the way to the dot indices on the dial, and the dolphin hour hand is also correctly proportioned. One can immediately differentiate between the longer dolphin minute hand and the shorter dolphin hour hand, and we've got a silver mirror polished needlepoint second hand, which is very aesthetically pleasing, and it also is correctly length because the length extends all the way to the dot indices, which are hand painted on the Urushi dial. So to clarify, there are various colours of lacquered Urushi dials. This is the blue Urushi dial, and the blue Urushi dial is called the Fuyuzora dial. And of the colour options to the Urushi dials, there's a plethora of colour options. This Fuyuzora version is my personal favourite because it's absolutely gorgeous, the blue tone of the Fuyuzora dial. So to clarify, this dial is not mass produced. We're not looking at a mass produced piece made in batches of 500 pieces in China. This piece is made in Japan using a Japanese caliber, the Miyota 9015. And the dial, as I've detailed, is hand lacquered by master Urushi artists at Teiya Shikitten Lacquer House. Teiya Shikitten Lacquer House are highly respected in Japan for their work in lacquering, and you can see the quality of the dial is just exceptional. The indices, which are silver dots, are hand painted, as is the Wancher emblem at 12 o'clock, and the quality of the hand painting and the hand lacquering to the Urushi dial is high tier level. So to clarify, the blue lacquer dial on this piece is the kind of quality one expects to see with a high tier piece costing €5,000+, not a mid tier piece costing €599 respectively. Date complication at 3 o'clock, so we have a white date wheel with black Arabic numerals. The single and the double black Arabic numerals contrast well with the white date wheel, and the alignment is correct. The single and the double Arabic numerals are not too high or too low or too far to the left or the right of the date window. Date window is correctly proportioned. Now, subjectively, one can be critical of the use of a single dome sapphire crystal versus double domed. It does have an aesthetically pleasing dome to it. But however, the clarity and legibility could be further enhanced had they used a double domed sapphire crystal. So to clarify, double domed sapphire crystals are curved on the underside, curved on the top side. The benefit of the curvature on the underside means that it reduces the magnification and distortion effect. When you tilt the piece at an oblique angle, like so, one doesn't get this characteristic distortion effect and magnification effect with a double domed sapphire crystal curved on the underside. This is single domed, so it's flat on the underside and curved on the top side, and when you tilt the piece at an oblique angle, you can see you get this characteristic distortion and magnification effect. It does magnify the dial rather like a magnifying lens, and of course that does enhance the look of the hand lacquered Urushi dial. You can see the clarity of the hand painting of the silver dot indices and the silver Wancher emblem, and also the hand lacquering of the Urushi dial, which is the Fuyuzora dial. So you do get the benefits of it. It does show you the dial to its best effect, but the negative is when you tilt it at an oblique angle, you do get that distortion and magnification. I think they should have used a flat sapphire crystal. That would have been beneficial. It would have reduced the thickness of the piece. Now it is a thin piece. This is only 11.5, and that's the benefit of using the Miyota 9015 versus an NH35A, which is a thicker caliber. But even though it's thin at 11.5, they could have reduced it by another millimetre down to only 10.5 had they used a flat sapphire crystal versus a single dome sapphire crystal. Alternatively, they could have used a double dome sapphire crystal as I've detailed, and that would have reduced the magnification and distortion. But nonetheless, clarity is excellent when you view the piece straight on. Legibility is good. AR coating has excellent clarity. It's a high quality single dome sapphire crystal, and the AR coating is high performance. Dolphin hands are clearly legible. They contrast very well against the hand lacquered Urushi dial. Let's look at the strap in detail. So, strap is padded. It's thicker at the spring bar end where it needs to be thicker and more reinforced, and then it tapers down in width but also in thickness, so it's very stiff at the spring bar end where it needs to be more robust for daily wear and tear, but then it tapers down in thickness, and at the buckle and tang end it's more soft and supple. In terms of quality, it's good quality leather like calf leather, and I like that it's matte versus glossy. They've made the correct decision here because this is a daily wear piece. Had they used a glossy bamboo pattern leather strap, that would have looked like a dress piece, and I think it would have been too shiny because the head of this piece, the bezel, the case and the case back are all mirror polished, and therefore the case is very shiny. And of course the dolphin hands are also mirror polished, so it is a shiny piece, and the dial is glossy rather than being matte. So a matte strap does balance the glossy finish to the head of the piece throughout, and it does look more like a daily wear strap rather than a dress piece strap. Also, the bamboo textured finish to it adds interest, and the quality of the stitching around the perimeter is excellent. No loose stitches. It is stiff at the spring bar end, but I'm confident it will break in with daily wear. So on the buckle and tang side, we have two keepers. The first keeper is fixed, the second keeper slides, as one would expect. They're correctly proportioned. The strap will fit from a minimum 6-inch wrist size up to a maximum 7.5-inch wrist size, which I'll show you in the wrist shot. It's a fraction too short from 8-inch wrist, so 6 to 7.5 will fit the majority of collectors. I'll show you the underside. So on one side we have genuine leather embossed and 20, which denotes the lug width, 20mm, plenty of holes from a 6 to 7.5 inch, and I'm pleased to see they've made the correct choice of quick release stainless steel spring bars rather than standard spring bars, because with thick padded leather straps like this, they're very stiff and it can be difficult to compress the strap and also the spring bar in order to exchange the strap for an alternative. And the problem is sometimes with these stiff straps, which are padded, they're very thick, you can slip with a spring bar and therefore scuff and scratch the mirror polished lugs. So this is good because quick release spring bars negates the need for a spring bar tool. Easy to remove the spring bar from the lugs, and this is beneficial. So case back is solid 316L grade stainless steel, concentric CNC lathe tool machining to the centre, and then the circumference is mirror polished and it has a concave profile to it rather than being domed, and the concave profiling to the mirror polishing is excellent. The milled slots are deburred and chamfered to a very high standard. They deserve credit here because this provides an effective hermetic seal to 100 metres, which is strong specification for a daily wear piece. Strictly speaking, a daily wear piece does not need a screw down case back. We're not looking at a dive piece. A pressed on case back with 50 metres would have sufficed, but 100 metres with a screw down case back is strong specification. The concentric CNC lathe tool machining refracts the light. It's very aesthetically pleasing, also very smooth. The engraving is high definition and sharp, but it doesn't feel rough and scratchy, so therefore it's comfortable to wear the piece for long periods of time. We've got the Wancher text logo, Wancher emblem, and around the circumference we've got the specification and reference number of the piece. Now they deserve credit here because it's a very flat case back. It's not a bubble back case back with a deep profile. Benefit of this is the case sits very snug to the wrist. This enhances the comfort level and the feel good factor because it is a low profile piece at only 11.5. Again, this is the benefit of it being powered by the Miyota caliber 9015, which is a thinner caliber than the other option they could have chosen, the Seiko NH35A. Thinner caliber, and had this been powered by the NH35A, it would be 13mm with the single domed sapphire crystal, but because it's 9015 powered, it's only 11.5, which is excellent, 1.5mm thinner than if it used the NH35A. Mirror polishing is excellent around the circumference, and it's a very smooth flat case back, so very nice executed. The underside head of the piece, it has flawless mirror polishing. No sharp edges, the undercuts to the flanks. They have a nice large bevel which deletes the sharp edge on the transitions, and the tips of the lugs have large bevels which deletes the sharp corners to the tips of the lugs. Quality of the case finishing is excellent. The mirror polishing to the underside, flanks and top of the case is stellar. So to clarify, with regards to the mirror polishing, when I'm looking at a mid-tier piece which is mirror polished on the bezel, the head of the piece and the case back, the first area I look at is in between the lugs. Reason being, often mid-tier microbrands use the production cost-cutting measure of the mirror polishing in between the lugs is not finished to the same level as the top of the lugs, the flanks and also the bezel, because these are areas that are more visible. And in between the lugs, for example, they will just machine them, or alternatively just brush satin finish in between the lugs. They do not mirror polish in between the lugs internally to the same standard as the mirror polish bezel and the flanks and the underside thread of the piece. But I want to give due credit to Wancher here because the mirror polishing in between the lugs, the internals, is done to the same quality level as on the bezel, the flanks and the top of the curved lugs. So it's excellent. To put the mirror polishing into perspective, this is Grand Seiko Zaratsu level polishing, and this is the benefit of this piece being made in Japan versus it being a mass-produced piece made in China with lower quality control. These are made in lower production runs. The dials are handmade, and each of these pieces is hand assembled in Japan. Therefore, it has higher quality control. The other thing is the cases are hand polished in Japan versus being mass produced and machine polished in China. So case polishing is Grand Seiko Zaratsu level on the top of the lugs, mirror polished flanks, and also the bezel. The thing I like about the bezel is its low profile, so it allows the single dome sapphire crystal to project above it, but it's got a concave profile to it rather than being domed or flat profile. And the concave profiling to the bezel is very aesthetically pleasing. It catches the light, but also it makes it look thinner than it actually is. So visually, the concave bezel is very aesthetically pleasing, and I think they've done a very good job with the proportions of the bezel, the dome of the single dome sapphire crystal, and the flanks. The other thing I like is the flanks are low profile and slender. For example, often with low-tier Chinese-made pieces, the flanks are very thick and slab-sided, and of course the thickness of the case is often necessary because they are generally powered by the Seiko NH35A. This has a Japanese-made case, and as you can see, it has very slender, low-profile flanks, and of course the case doesn't need to be as deep because it's not housing an NH35A. As I've detailed, it's powered by the 9015, which is thinner. So flanks are very slender, and visually this does look very aesthetically pleasing. It's not a thick slab-sided piece. The undercuts are very deep. That deletes a lot of meat from the head of the piece. Now the thing I like about that is this piece is only 67 grams, which is incredibly lightweight for an automatic. 67 grams is the kind of lack of heft one would expect with a quartz-powered piece or a mechanical manual wind piece, not an automatic with a rotor. Automatic calibers are heavier than quartz and, of course, mechanical manual wind movements without a rotor. So it's thin at 11.5, and it's also light at only 67 grams, despite being a large piece at 41.8 diameter. Right, so just bear with me, I'll do up the strap to make it easier to handle it. And then we'll test the push-pull crown execution. Solid 316L grade stainless steel crown, coin edge finished, nice large chamfer which deletes the tip of the coin edge teeth, mirror polished cap to it, and as you can see it's engraved with high definition engraving with a Wancher emblem. Very high definition engraving but doesn't feel rough or sharp. Quality of the mirror polishing and deburring is excellent. Correctly proportioned crown, it's large enough to be grippy and tactile. You can get good purchase with your index finger and thumb, but it's not oversized. The crown doesn't project too far from the right hand flank, so therefore the benefit is when you flex the wrist, the crown isn't too large and doesn't dig into the back of the hand. So it's large enough to get good purchase of, but not too large and dig into the back of the hand. They've got it correct. So as it's a push-pull crown, which provides an effective hermetic seal to 50 meters, one doesn't need to unscrew it or pull it out in order to manually wind. In the closed position, with 50 meters of hermetic seal, one can manually wind the Miyota caliber 9015 automatic to its maximum 42-hour power reserve. It feels smooth to manually wind, and I like it. It feels very refined. It feels smoother to manually wind than a Seiko NH35A, alternatively a Sellita SW200-1, which we'll all be familiar with. One can feel the tension in the mainspring gradually building up to its maximum 42 hours. Nice, smooth feeling to it. Feels pleasant to manually wind. Pulling it out to the first click position is the quick set date complication. Just bear with me. That's the time setting. I'll do it again. There. Rotating the crown clockwise in the date complication setting position advances the quick set date. So if you look at the date window at 3 o'clock, you can see each day of the month clicks over with a nice light click. To put this into perspective, the clicking action of Miyota 9000 premium calibers, such as the 9039 and 9015 respectively, they feel lighter than the NH38 and NH35A respectively. So the quickset clicks over with a nice positive click, but it feels lighter. Feels more like a Sellita SW200-1, that's the sensation of it, and it's a characteristic of 9000 calibers, such as this 9015. They have a lighter clicking feeling than the NH35A. Alignment is correct. The Arabic numerals, both the singles and the doubles, are not too far to the left or right, and they're not too high or too low. So clarity is good, legibility is good, and the font isn't too thick and blurry. It's high definition and crisp. It's a nice fine font for both the single and the double Arabic numerals. So it works very well. Pulling it out to the second click position hacks the movement. If you look at the needle point second hand, you can see it's now stopped dead, so therefore it's possible to set the time precisely to the second with the Miyota caliber 9015 automatic. So we're now in the time setting position. Feels smooth, clockwise and anti-clockwise. Minimal resistance to the gearing, has 24 joules. Very smooth, doesn't feel rough or gritty, doesn't feel stiff. It's got a nice light resistance to it and feels smoother than an H35A, feels similar to an SW200-1. Minimal backplay. When you rotate the coin edge crown clockwise and anti-clockwise, there's an almost immediate response to the Dolphin minute hand when setting the time. Pushing it back in, it's got a nice positive click, and that restarts the movement. The needlepoint second hand begins to sweep around the dial at the characteristic smooth 4 Hz sweep. This is something I like about the 9015. It runs at 4 Hz versus 3 Hz. Therefore, unlike a Seiko NH35A, which runs at 3 Hz, the second hand doesn't stutter or judder around the dial, because it doesn't run at 21,600 vibrations per hour in 3 Hz, it runs at 28,800 vibrations per hour, which is 4 Hz. Nice smooth sweep to it, more aesthetically pleasing. So, hand winding works well, hacking works well, quick set date complication works well, feels pleasant to set the time. I like it. Right, so I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. So as I've detailed, this bamboo pattern genuine leather strap is long enough to fit up to a maximum 7.5-inch wrist and a minimum 6-inch wrist size. So, as you can see, it's a fraction too short. I can just engage it in the first keeper, the first fixed keeper, and the second sliding keeper. But you can see it would need to be half an inch longer to fit my 8-inch wrist correctly. But I'm not going to be critical of it, because for the majority of collectors with a 6 to 7.5-inch wrist, the strap is long enough. There are enough holes to size it down to a minimum 6-inch wrist size, and enough holes to size it up to a maximum 7.5. As you can see, it just fits my 8-inch wrist. But it would need to be half an inch longer to suffice. But 6 to 7.5 is good. So this is a large piece. Needless to say, at 41.8 it does have wrist presence. However, it doesn't dominate the wrist. It doesn't feel too large. I would say it's clearly best suited to collectors with a larger 7 to 8-inch plus wrist size. It's a shame they didn't make this in a 39mm, because 39 would have looked very aesthetically pleasing with this design, with the Fuyuzora Urushi dial. But also, it would fit all wrist sizes. 39 is the sweet spot, because that fits a 6 to 7-inch wrist and a 7 to 8-inch wrist respectively. At 41.8, it does really mean that it's only suitable for larger wrists of 7 to 8 inches plus. The other thing to note is it does have a long case. The lug-to-lug measurement is long at 49.5. So you'll know from my previous reviews, 48mm is the sweet spot. That is the perfect sweet spot lug-to-lug for all wrist sizes. 48 lug-to-lug fits 6 to 7-inch wrists and also fits 7 to 8-inch wrists. At 49.5, it's 1.5mm longer than the sweet spot. So again, this is clearly only suitable for collectors with a larger 7 to 8-inch plus wrist size. If you have a smaller 6 to 7-inch wrist, you're going to find the length of the case too long. Problem with the 49.5, which is 1.5 longer than the sweet spot of 48, the tips of the lugs are going to have too much overhang by 1.5mm, and you can see even on my large 8-inch wrist there is a gap beneath the tips of the curved lugs, and the case does look 1.5 too long. If they shortened up the lug-to-lug to 48, this would look better. It would also reduce the gap beneath the spring bar going through the padded leather strap and the internals of the lug. So you can see in between the spring bar, or the end of the strap, and the case, we have a gap. And this is really caused by the lugs being 1.5 too long. If they were 48 lug to lug, that would close up the gap by 1.5mm on the length of the case, and it would look more aesthetically pleasing without the large gap beneath the end of the between the end of the strap or the spring bar and also the head of the piece. So it's a long case. If you have a large wrist of 8 inches plus, you will appreciate that, because it does balance the diameter of the case, which is 41.8. So large piece, does have wrist presence. The single domed sapphire crystal does look aesthetically pleasing. The negative is it does have distortion and magnification effect, but it does give the piece a vintage aesthetic as a result, rather like an acrylic, plexiglass or Hesselite crystal which was used in the 1960s and 1970s. So single dome crystals with a distortion and magnification, they visually do give the effect of acrylic, but of course one does have the benefit over acrylic of this being harder and more scratch resistant, and of course the benefit of AR coating improves the legibility, because you can see the dolphin hands, which are mirror polished, contrast very well with the Fuyuzora Urushi blue dial. So legibility is good, feel good factor is good. One thing I like about it above all else is 11.5. Now, you'll know from my previous reviews, 13mm and below is the sweet spot for thickness, so needless to say, it's 11.5. This is well below the 13mm sweet spot, therefore it will easily slip underneath a shirt cuff if you wear business shirts. It's a daily wear piece, and it is a practical daily wear piece because 11.5 is low profile despite it having wrist presence at 41.8 diameter. Just a shame they didn't shorten down the length to 48, and it's also a shame they didn't make this in 39 because 39 would have looked more aesthetically pleasing on a large wrist and a small wrist respectively. Lug width is correct at 20, and there's a nice gradual taper from 20 at the lugs down to the buckle and tang, so proportions of the bamboo pattern genuine leather strap are correct. The black leather strap I think is better looking than the other option, which is brown leather, and as I've detailed, this is available in a plethora of case finishes: black, bronze, gold, red Aurora or silver. The silver is the best looking with the Fuyuzora Urushi blue dial and the black strap, as you can see. I think this is the best combination. Fuyuzora blue dial, silver case, black strap. These are the best options. So wrist presence is good. Now the thing is, I like the lack of heft. It's only 67. 67 grams is the kind of lack of heft one would expect with a quartz power piece or a mechanical manual wind piece, not an automatic, which adds heft to the piece. So 67 is very lightweight for 41.8 head of the piece, and it does feel weightless on wrist despite the wrist presence. It does look like a large heavy piece, but actually feels like a light piece, and it does feel balanced. It doesn't feel top heavy like a thick slab of 316L grade stainless steel sitting on top of the wrist. It curves around the wrist well. It is low profile at 11.5. Curvature of the lugs is good, and the strap has the correct taper, so it balances and distributes the weight of the head of the piece. 67 is a very lightweight automatic in 41.8, so they deserve credit for the slender profile to the flanks. It's not a thick slab-sided flank piece. It's low profile and there's good curvature to the undercuts to the flanks. Feel good factor is good. Comfort level is good, but it could be refined with a V2 made in 39 with a 48mm lug to lug, as I've detailed. So there's no loom, so we don't need to do a loom test. So let's move on to discussing the movement use, which is my favourite aspect of the piece as well as the dial. So this is powered by the Miyota 9015. Now, you'll know from my previous reviews, my two personal favourite Miyota 9000 series calibers, which are premium grade Miyota calibers, are the 9039 and the 9015 respectively. The 9039 has the same architecture as the 9015, which it's based upon. So to clarify, the 9015 is the date version, the 9039 is the no date version, but the architecture of both are the same. This has 24 joules. It runs at 28,800 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 4 Hz. It has hand winding and hacking, which are used for complications, and they work well, as I've demonstrated. Quick set date complication also works well. Stated accuracy of the caliber 9015 is -10 to +30 seconds per day, so rather wide accuracy range. However, I'm pleased to report that Wancher are doing a very good job of regulating the caliber 9015s they're using. This one is running consistently at +3 seconds per day, which is actually within chronometer limits of -4 to +6. +3 is nothing unusual for a 9015. They are a premium 9000 series caliber, and often they can attain chronometer accuracy when regulated within 5 positions. So Wancher are clearly regulating the 9015s they're using in 5 positions to attain +3. +3 is well within the stated -10 to +30 accuracy range. Excellent caliber. It's one of my personal favourites. The 9015 has been in service since 2009 and it's made in Japan. To put it into perspective, it is a level above the Seiko NH38 and it's a level above the NH35A respectively. In terms of build quality, quality control, materials, finishing and accuracy, the reliability is outstanding. From 2009 to 2025, its reliability is proven beyond question. There are no unreliability issues whatsoever. So, excellent quality. In terms of build quality, materials and finishing, I regard the 9015 as equal overall to the Sellita Caliber SW200-1, the ETA 2824-2 and the Soprod Caliber P024 respectively, the standard grades of the aforementioned. There's no discernible difference in quality control, build quality, materials and finishing to the 9015 and the standard grades of the aforementioned calibers. So it's a level above the NH35A. Wancher deserve credit. They could have used the production cost cutting measure of using the NH35A because it's a date complication movement, and of course it would reduce production cost per piece and therefore maximise profit margin per piece. But they haven't. They've taken the more expensive option of the 9015. This is a mid-tier piece between 500 and 5,000 euro, although it's at the low end of the mid-tier at 599. If this were powered by the NH35A, I'd be highly critical of it because that's suitable for 0 to 500 euro low-tier pieces. But when one gets to the mid-tier of 500 plus, it has to be a 9000 series, either the 9039 or the 9015 respectively. Correct choice, and they deserve credit for not using an NH35A at this price point. Accurate, reliable, well proven. And of course, build quality is excellent. It's the correct choice. Feels good to manually wind, feels good to hack, set the time, quick set complication, everything about it feels refined. So last I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch meets two criteria. It should be both for excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So, mid-tier piece, price point is €599. I'm going to declare it's excellent quality, and I'm going to declare the value as okay. Now, there is one area that I'd like to see them refine or improve, and that is the sterile clasp. This is the one production cost cutting measure, and I think it's a production cost cutting measure too far. In the mid-tier at €500 plus, it has to have a signed buckle and tang. It needs to be signed with Wancher, or alternatively the Wancher emblem. That is the one cost cutting measure that needs to be addressed. But other than that, it's excellent quality. As I've detailed, the bezel, the case back are Grand Seiko Zaratsu level mirror polishing, outstanding. Single dome sapphire crystal, I think they could update it to a flat sapphire crystal or a double dome sapphire crystal, but this is subjective. Some collectors might prefer the vintage aesthetic or the distortion and magnification effect as per an acrylic crystal. Above all else, what I like about this piece, and they deserve credit for, and it fully justifies the price point, is the blue lacquered Urushi dial. So to remind you, the blue lacquered Urushi dial is handmade in Wajima, Japan by master Urushi artists at Teiya Shikiten Lacquer House. And as I've detailed, Teiya Shikiten Lacquer House are highly respected in Japan for their work in lacquering. So the dial is handmade, and one has to remember, this is not a mass-produced piece made in China with low quality control levels. This piece is hand assembled in Japan. The dial is handmade by master Urushi artists at Teiya Shikiten Lacquer House. The dots of the indices, the Wancher emblem at 12 o'clock, they are handmade. They're not machine printed or pad printed. They are hand painted. The dolphin hands are mirror polished to perfection, so finishing level on this piece is high level. Quality control is also high. Flawless mirror polishing to the case. The crown is smooth. It's a push-pull crown, not a screw-down crown, but it's very smooth and refined. 50 meters is acceptable. So quality of the finishing is excellent. Price point I think is okay at €599. Bear in mind it's made in Japan, not made in China. Therefore the production costs are higher. The hand lacquered dial obviously adds additional production costs per piece, and therefore in order to make it viable to retail it has to be €599 using a premium 9015 caliber. So excellent quality, value is okay. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Wancher Dreamwatch Fuyuzora Urushi. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you for watching.